Alright, so I took this photo probably about a year ago, and it was probably one of my favorite photos that I had taken at the time. I still like it a lot to this day, but it was one that I kind of noticed where it's like a complete shift from how my work used to look. And I think a lot of it was kind of due to lighting and due to the edit. So I'm going to be taking you guys through my editing process for this photo. I'm going to be just recreating the edit. I'm sure it'll look pretty similar to the one that I took the first time. So I'm just going to be walking you guys through with Capture One. It's just a preference in my program that I like to use for image editing. I'm going to be using Capture One and also a Wacom tablet to do a little bit of facial retouching. And right, let's get into it. Alright guys, so we're going to get straight into it. I'm using Capture One like I said. Just imported this photo. This is the raw file that I'm using. I took it with a Sony A7R. I took this at a meetup probably I think a year ago. And I just got my A7R. I probably shot with it maybe 2 or 3 times. And I bought a Sigma 35 1.4 to use like 2 days before on Amazon, and super overpaid for it, probably like about $200 just to get it for this little meetup and shoot with these people, dope people. Can't remember who organized it, but it was definitely a good time. Met a lot of cool people that I ended up working with again. So if you're a photographer or model and you don't really know how to get out and shoot more or having people take photos of you more, I definitely recommend meetups. I don't really go to them now too much, but it's just like one of those things you kind of grow out of eventually, I think. But it is really productive usually. Just make sure you go to dope ones. This shit can get whack fast if you go to the wrong ones. But if you go to a good one, you always end up with great photos. So import it into Capture One. Gonna start out with probably the first thing, which would probably be exposure. The main thing about this photo that kind of turned it into what it was this light and this whole golden look that it has. It came from that ray of light that you can kind of see peeking from behind the building on the left. It just was a random streak of light between 2 buildings in Noda. This is actually in Noda, Charlotte, North Carolina, at the Rat's Nest. It's a cool little vintage spot. I'd definitely check it out if you're in Charlotte. But yeah, it's just a cool beam of light that came through the sides, and it hit the side of her face. It wasn't the most appealing light, just in terms of how it blew out. The sides right here, they're like completely blown. There's not much you can do about it. But I still think it was a cool photo. It did highlight the rest of her face pretty well, because I actually used reflector. My friend Paris, Silver.Paris on Instagram, you should follow him as well. It's a little homie. I was about to go on the big homie. Fuck out of here. The little homie. Anyway, got me tight just thinking of that. But yeah, had him holding a small golden reflector. You can actually see the catch light in her eyes right there. He was just standing probably to the left of me. I was kneeling down, and I had her kind of looking down toward me. And the thing that kind of set this picture to its final image was more than likely the contrast. That's kind of just what did it, and the vignette of it just made it look great. So I'm gonna take the temperature down a little bit. I still want it to look pretty golden, but I just wanted to take that down quite a bit. The main thing will be this contrast. This contrast is what sets this pictures up for just amazing greatness. It sets this shit apart. You don't want to abuse contrast too much in general, trust me. Like, it's just a long road to go down, and you don't want to do that. But if you do, you just do it in a tasteful way, and it will turn out looking great majority of the time. I'm just boosting the contrast up kind of wild now, but I'm going to go back and edit the things that I feel shouldn't be affected as much by the contrast. I'm going to take the exposure up a little bit and the saturation down just a tad. That's kind of my own personal preference. I don't like super saturated photos. I feel more often than not you're better off going undersaturated than oversaturated. I'm gonna bring my highlights down just a little bit. Shadows just up a tad. And my curve, I'm gonna mess with this a little bit as well. I'm gonna bring it down right here so my darks go a little bit darker, but I want to keep my mids up there. Yeah, that's looking great. I think about right there is good. I think it's already starting to take on that final look. But honestly, it was really just contrast that made this photo look the way that it did. So now I'm gonna go in and go a bit deeper in with this edit. The main thing that we'll be touching is our local adjustments. Just to start off with, I'm gonna go in with some of the face. One thing I noticed, there's a little bit of redness just off top that I can tell. So we're gonna go in with the Wacom tablet and do a little bit of coloring. All right, so we're just gonna be going in with the tablet here. I'm gonna go for the redness in her face. That's kind of what I'm gonna go for first, and then I'm gonna kind of change whatever else I see fit once I have it selected. Gonna grab our brush tool, and most of the things in this tutorial can kind of be translated into Photoshop. There's nothing in here that's not too much different from Photoshop. So when I use this, I'm using my pen pressure and have my auto mask on. I'm just gonna roughly color the face. And I don't want to get the lips because her lips are pink, obviously. Just gonna go around the mouth, up under the eyes, and I'm not hitting that that highlight, those blown highlights yet. I'm gonna go back to those. I'm not gonna be able to save them, but can make them look a little bit better. I could go in with Photoshop and probably just clone stamp the fuck out of it and end up at a good spot, but I like the way this mask is looking now. So I wanted to miss the brow, the underbrow, because I'm gonna go back in with that and bring the shadows back up later. So first things first, gonna bring my shadows up just a tad in general, just to kind of give her face a little bit more light than I already had. Then I'm gonna go in my color editor, and then I'm gonna select kind of that pink-ish that I don't like. Probably selected the wrong color. Let's try right there. I'm gonna desaturate that first. I'm not crazy about how that looks. Okay. Just gonna desaturate a little bit. Then I'm gonna select this part right here. I'm gonna end up touching this out in a second later, but I just kind of want to get rid of it, that whole tint, or not the whole tint, but just so it's not as pink, even though I don't really think I changed too much with that. But I can also mess with the hue to make it less pink as well. And I'm gonna go in with my contrast, bring it down a little bit so there's not too much of a differences in this change of skin tone. Want to make it a little bit more golden, not super golden, but the whole picture is pretty yellow and gold and warm as it is, so I don't want her face to stick out from that. Yep. Gonna take our clarity down. Yeah, there's some skin effects. I was just taking a look at that real quick, but just going in right here. Gonna make sure we don't lose too much of the skin texture itself, because I absolutely hate when photographers do that. They'll give grown men and grown women like flawless skin, and it just doesn't make sense at all, and I hate it. But not gonna do that today, because that's not what we're about. Then we're gonna go in with our spot healing tool. Same thing in Photoshop, no different really. We're just gonna go in, pick and choose, bop, bop, boom. And just lining the shit up with the crosshairs, just like the Draco. Spray that shit. Spray that shit. So I'm gonna go in here. One thing I'm kind of noticing is the pinkness around the nose, so I'm gonna try and change that by itself in a second. We'll just mess with that. But skin looks a lot better. Looks pretty clear, but it's not unrealistic. Still has this texture. Like I said, I want to see what I can do with this nasal area. It sounds fancy, right? Nasal area. Just see what we can do here, just so it's not as dark. And that helped a bit. Still not quite where I want it to be. I probably have to go into Photoshop to do what I really want to do, which would just be to take this whole skin tone and apply it here. But we're not going to do all that today. And I'm just going to go back for a second because I noticed her face looks almost too yellow. So I'm just going to bring it back down to earth. Next, I'm going to go for the eyes. I'm going to go for a sclera first. That's the white part of the eye. Another huge pet peeve of mine, when photographers make people's eyes porcelain pure white. No one's eyes are that white. Nobody's. It's only in cartoons, kids. You're not gonna see that shit anywhere else, so let's not even pretend like it's real life. Give them the wild white eyes and shit just looks horrible. So I'm not gonna do that today either. Oh shit. White is right. Wait, what? My dad would always tell me, of course, jokingly, of course, he'd always be like, make sure when you get a girlfriend, make sure white is right. So you gotta get you a white one. But you're not doing that today, bro. Gotta make these shits look natural. None of that. So when you're doing this, you kind of want to go for a yellowish red, just a natural white of the eye. I'll show you what it looks like. I'm just changing it here because it's too yellow. It's way too yellow for me. And the main thing you'll do here is just drag the saturation down. That's way too much. But some people have it looking like this and it looks horrible. But one thing I do notice from doing this is I went a little bit too far on my brush. So just dial that back a little bit there. Boom, boom. And then we'll go back to our mask. And the main trick that I learned from just editing in general is just zooming out. Like when you zoom in and you edit the whole time, you're gonna get fucked up in terms of color and just losing sight of how that'll look. So when I zoom out, I notice that looks unnatural. That looks unnatural. That doesn't look very appealing. But I think about somewhere in that range is probably good. Maybe a little bit more saturation. And just bump the exposure up, just minuscule exposure. Barely anything. Probably right there, I can live with that. That's probably even a bit too white for me, but it looks pretty good. So next we're gonna go for her iris. I'm pretty sure she has gray or blue eyes. But here it kind of just looks kind of like a brownish, ugly mess. And her eyes are beautiful and they're not that color. So I'm gonna bring them back. Not to say people with brown eyes don't have beautiful eyes either, because there's definitely some brown eyes shorties, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, just gonna draw in right here with the iris. Just go around the pupil. I'm not too worried about if I bleed over a little bit. And just looking at the eyes from right here, I'm not liking how white they are. So I'm gonna bring this down even more. Just going back to how I said you don't want the eyes to look unrealistic. It's seriously like the main thing that pisses me off. So, and the same goes for the iris. No one has pure white eyes like irises, so can't do that either. But her eyes are pretty gray or blue, can't recall. But I'm gonna just bring the shadows up, saturation down, maybe even bring the actual exposure up, just be a bit more dramatic, because her eyes are definitely a light color, so you don't want to rob her of that. And I think that looks pretty good, so I'm gonna stick with that. I'm happy with that. And just gonna go back to the face for a split second. I want to turn down the clarity just a little bit more. Think about there is good. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. So next, I'm gonna go for around her eyes, the brow area, so it's not as dark. It's pretty natural. I mean, it happens. People have different brow sizes, so it's not unnatural. But I just want to get rid of a little bit of the shadow under the eye as well. I'm just gonna bring that up just a little bit, and that's cool where it is. Next, I kind of want to grab this little bit of hair over here and just make it a little bit more yellowish, so it's not too washed out. It's looking a bit washed out right there, but at least if I can bring the bottom part back, it'll look a bit better. And some people name all their layers. That's cool. That's good for them. I wasn't a straight A student, so I'm not gonna act like I was and name all my layers and make it beautiful, but this picture's still gonna turn out fire, so that's all that matters at the end of the day. Feel me? So, coming back to this, I'm gonna make her hair gold-ish, but not too gold. I think that's pretty good how it is. And looking good so far. One small thing that I kind of noticed about this picture that I wasn't crazy about was her fingertips. Kind of made it like she was outside in snow all day. And like, you ever been outside when it's super cold and you're like digging around in the snow and you don't have gloves and your fingertips get super red? I know Team Dark Skin doesn't know what I'm talking about, but you know, the rest of us do. So just want to desaturate this a little bit so it looks a bit more natural, and not super red. Let's see, like if I bring them up, her shit's look like crazy red. So I'm gonna just chill right there. I'll probably give it a yellow tint to it so it looks a bit more fitting. Is still not perfect by any means, but the shadows, reducing the shadows, should definitely bring that back, and I think that looks a lot better. I was just looking at the eyes again. I kind of wanted to go back and see how that was looking, because they look light, but they just don't look as light as I know they are. So once again, you can go in either with a curve or whatever tool you prefer. Some people prefer curves. I'm just bump it up just slightly. Next thing, just want to crop. That's one thing I kind of even see myself do a lot now. I kind of ignore crops. Sometimes I'll just leave the shit straight up after camera, straight out of camera, just because I like the way it looks. That's not always necessarily right. You should always crop, and I prefer this crop for this photo. Kind of gives that light leak just enough space, because that is kind of something cool with this photo, is that light coming through. So I just definitely want to leave that in there and let that stay as a hallmark of this photo. So last thing, getting toward the end here. I'm gonna bump up the clarity, kind of give it more of a sharp, cool look. With some hard, punchy edges. Also gonna sharpen it quite a bit. That's one good thing about using raw files in Capture One. Capture One is probably one of the best editing softwares to retain that detail. Actually, I think it probably is the best to retain detail with raw photos compared to things like Lightroom and other photo processors. Not necessarily Photoshop, because that's kind of a whole different program in terms of editing. As far as like a pure photo processing software, Capture One is definitely the best when it comes to that. I'm gonna go back to my background. I'm already on it. I just want to make it a little bit more blue, just a tinge bit, and I like how that looks, man. I think this shit came out great. Again, not to toot my own horn, but I do like how it looks. I loved it when I took it. I love it now for what it is. I definitely think I've taken way better pictures that took a lot more effort, and I'll probably do those in the future as well. But I can do a quick before and after for you. Here's before, and this is after. All in Capture One. I think it turned out pretty good. Let me know what you think. If you guys want to see more videos, let me know. My website is michaelseegers.com, michaelseegars.com, or for the cool kids that like that aesthetic shit, michaelseega.rs. That's for the cool people. I'm gonna leave that in the description as well. Don't know why I spelled it out, but I did. Gonna have that ready for you down there. Also gonna have a link to my Instagram, and that'll be waiting for you. And I appreciate you guys checking out my video. Like I said, if you want to see more, if you look at my Instagram or website and see a picture in particular that you want me to break down, either from a shooting perspective or from an editing perspective, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to do it. It's just pretty fun to me. Like, it's just interesting to do again, and it's always fun going back and messing with old photos. And all right, thanks guys.